What's up, you awesome geeks? Are you up for a little something different today? Are you willing to watch me possibly ruin a 4-hour laser print with bad choices in painting and gluing? You see, we had this project centered around Middle Earth that we were making for a friend of ours several months back. I found several ways to fail and hopefully redeem myself. Let's check it out. So what we have here is we have a map of Middle Earth. Now, I'm pretty stoked about this. What I wanted to do was print it in 2 sections. So we've got the map, the top of the map, if you will, here, and then a base where we've got the little Middle Earth logo cut in, and we also have a shoreline. The thought process behind this was, we can go ahead and mount the top layer up here, and then that way you've got kind of a relief. And what I want to do is I want to paint the map section up here and give it kind of that old map color. And then on the bottom, we'll go ahead and spray in the ocean, and we'll do kind of a lighter blue to darker blue. And then also where these lakes are, there's a couple of lakes here that I've cut out. We'll spray the lower level of that. We'll spray those with that blue color, and then that should give you kind of a 3-dimensional type of map. If you're working with acrylic, one of these plastic scrapers is about the best thing you could ever get. It's the only way I can imagine getting all of this paper off of all these little tiny trees. Get yourself a plastic scraper to remove all this paper. Okay, I just got this all cleaned off. So that's probably hard for you to see all the detail, but it's cleaned off. And I wanted to bring up one thing when working with acrylics that's been absolutely important, imperative to making everything work right. So this Novus cleaner, it not only cleans the acrylic, but it also helps with any of the static. So that way you're not getting a lot of dust and dirt and that kind of thing that sticks to the acrylic after you remove the protective paper. I'm working with a few different Vallejo Model Air. So I'm gonna start, I think, with just the light brown over the entire thing, and then we'll work in some other colors and then do some ink washes. This is all pretty much experimental for me at this point. I've never done this, and I've never tried it with acrylic. I've done a fair amount of weathering and things in the past, but this is all new. So that took me all of about 2 seconds to realize that full coverage of something this size with the airbrush and this kind of paint, that's not the right move. I think the right move is to get a rattle can of something that's close and get a layer down, and then we will go in with the airbrush and do some subtle detailing. This will take too long with too much paint. So yeah, that was pretty successful. And then obviously the spray paint was a lot easier to get more coverage on here. And I think what I might do is just kind of slightly airbrush, or maybe we just dive right in with some oil wash. I mean, the color is pretty good. I don't know that we need to do anything with that. Now, we still get a fair amount of questions about oil wash. So essentially all I'm doing is using this odorless paint thinner. Now, just because it says odorless doesn't mean you shouldn't wear a respirator and things like that, which I've got, when you're using it, because there still are fumes. And then as far as the oils, it's these water mixable oil paints. We've used these plenty of times before. I buy a lot of different types and colors. And then I save all of my old food takeout bins, wash them, and then I use them for painting. And you basically just mix the paint in here with a little bit of the mineral spirits, and you can thin it down as much as you want. I also took the map and I did give it a clear coat with some Rust-Oleum matte clear sealer. That'll kind of protect the bottom layer coat of paint from being ruined when I use these. And I'm just gonna kind of drop a little bit of paint in and let it kind of just pool. The thing about the mineral spirits and the oil is that it basically is a wash. And so that'll cause it to seep into all the little crevices and kind of runs into all the corners, which is what we're wanting. So I bought a big pack of these makeup sponges. Buying them in bulk was a little bit cheaper. And then you just peel them out. So now you can use the makeup sponge to go in and clean up some of this area. And then I've also got some of these kind of sponge brushes as well. That's nasty. What was that right there? Oh, that's weird. Whoa! What was that? Oh man, okay. So my sealer did not work. The sealer, that bled right through the acrylic. Interesting. So the solvent, the mineral spirits, even with the sealant, you can see, I'll make sure I'm in focus here. You can see it just went right through it. Okay, so some of you are saying, duh, it's going to wipe the paint right off of the acrylic. I hadn't had that problem before. When I used other materials and I seal it, it tends to work really well for me. In this case, that wasn't how it turned out. So lesson learned on clear acrylic, even with the sealer, which is okay. I think a lot of channels that we watch, myself included, a lot of times you're watching things and feeling like whoever's there just never makes any mistakes and things always go swimmingly. And I can tell you that that rarely happens in this shop. So I wanted to be able to show you that. What we did instead is I went ahead and repainted it. Okay, I took a red rust primer and laid that down. My thought process is here is I can utilize that deep red color or that darker color, and that will get down all inside the nooks and crannies. And now, as soon as it's dry, I'm gonna hit it with that cream again. And then the cream, what we'll do after that is we'll come in, we'll take the water mixable oil paints, but I'll do more of a traditional weathering with those, where we just kind of work some of the edges and some of the worn locations and that kind of thing, and we'll go that route instead of using the mineral spirits and ruining it again. Point of this all is you can always repaint and you can always start over and you can just make it work. So let's do that. All right, yeah, I think that works okay, doesn't it? It's got a little bit of that worn, burnt and tattered paper, I guess. If anything, it just looks like it's a little aged and a little weathered. So now all we need to do is add it to the base. We're also going to need to paint the ocean area of the map. And so I've got a couple of paints here. I've got a Liquitex inks is what they are, acrylic inks. And they're super thin. They work great in the airbrush. I've got a little light blue and a dark blue. So we'll be able to do the transition between light and dark for shallow and deep. Okay, we've got our blue background with the ocean, and now our updated map. So the last thing to do is just epoxy this down so that it all holds in place. I'm gonna peel back all of this protective paper and then take some sandpaper and go through and rough it up, and that'll give it a little tooth to bite in on. So I've got a couple of options. I have some Weld-On 3, which actually is kind of perfect for acrylics and styrene, you know, hard acrylic, polycarbonate, all kinds of different things that this works really well for. And it'll actually weld the seams. I also have a pretty large area that I need to glue down, and this evaporates really quickly. So I've had a lot of success just using epoxy with acrylic. I haven't had any issues as far as that gluing things together. So I'm probably going to do a combination of both, like the epoxy down in some large areas to get the center holding down, and then I'll use the Weld-On around the seams, around the edge, to get that kind of welded together, and we'll see how that goes. I'm not sure. Maybe there's a different way I should glue this all down. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments if you know. Okay, we got it. It's all glued together. I didn't exclusively use epoxy. I actually added in some CA glue to get some better coverage. I'm sure for gluing up a piece of acrylic of this size, there's a better way to do it. And if you have one, please drop it in the comment. I'd love to know if what I did was completely insane, and especially if there's a better way to do it. Now, we need to finish this off. So, I think it deserves a frame. Now, I was smart enough to do this project without planning, so the only frame I could find that would fit is a 24 by 18. and we're roughly 24 by 617, somewhere in that range. So I have a little bit of spill from left to right with this. So I've got a little bit of a gap on both sides. So I just hit it with some black, but overall, it's gonna fit really nice in this frame. At the end of the day, this project was something I really enjoyed. I absolutely love Lord of the Rings, and I tried my hand at map creation, and that was super interesting. I can see so many ways in the future to add more layers to give the map a greater depth, as well as options for so many different genres that we could experiment with in this form. You know us primarily for our Star Wars and a dusting of other sci-fi projects, so thank you for sticking around to check this out. I want to thank our Patreon community, the Smugglers Guild, for all their support and allowing us to continue to bring you content. Thanks for letting us take on a little bit different journey today, and if you want to see another one of our favorite projects, check out this episode right here, and we'll see you the next time we build something out of nothing.